Bad news, I'm afraid. The results of Jarrod Bowen's scam, which he had yesterday, have come back worse than the club had hoped. It's not the end of the world. He's not going to miss the end of the season and all of that sort of stuff. But he's got a bruised spine, which usually means between 2 and 3 weeks. There's some reports saying at least 3 weeks. I've read that in a few different places. That's not the case. Well, so I've heard. I'm not a medical man. I'm just dealing with the information that I've been given. And it is that it's 2 to 3 weeks. Now, what it probably seems is that he will miss Thursday night's game, although nobody can be certain. You've got to think sometimes players have injury-killing injections to get them through. I guess this really depends on Jarrod himself, and it depends on the club and how willing they are to either encourage him to have a painkilling injection. They might just not do that. It might just be bad medical practice. You don't hear it so much anymore. Maybe that just doesn't happen to footballers, but I guess would you hear about it? Possibly not. And I guess it depends on how much Jarrod really wants to push that through, because it was clear he didn't want to leave the pitch against Wolves. He really, really tried, but he was in a lot of pain. He was in a lot of discomfort. One of those funny ones, isn't it? You know, you watch it back, that collision that he had, and it didn't look to be too much in it. But you know with Bowen, if he goes down and he stays down, that something is wrong. He's a tough, real tough character, and he just doesn't spend time. He's not Lucas Paquetá. Doesn't spend sort of eternity rolling around on the floor trying to win free kicks. If he goes down, he jumps back up. So you knew it wasn't great. I guess it depends on how you look at it. You know, something 2 to 3 weeks, in the bigger scheme of things, is not too bad. When placed in the context of such a big game on Thursday night, it's a problem. It's an issue. I mean, there's no doubt about it at all. Our attack is weakened significantly by not having him there. Nobody knows. And listen, don't rule out the fact that the club might be using the media, might even be using channels like this one to get some misinformation out there, and he starts and he plays against Leverkusen. Actually, do you know what? I wouldn't mind. Even, you know, if we got done and we got stitched up and we were part of the culprits, if it's the West Ham, the team's betterment and benefit, I don't mind. What I don't like so much is, you know, misinformation to try and assist with the selling of season tickets and stuff like that. Not so keen on that type of thing. But in this instance, I wouldn't mind. So don't rule out him playing. If I were to try and guess what was happening, I think he'll miss Thursday, and I think he'll be back for the return leg at the London Stadium. The thing is, with a bruised spine, and I don't know anything about it, but I can imagine it's bloody uncomfortable. For anybody that's had a bad back, you know this. If you've got a sore arm or something, right, you can sort of rest it. You've got a sore leg, you can rest it. You can get in positions when you're sat down or when you're lying down where you can rest a bad arm or a bad leg. There's two things which you just cannot really get away from. And number one is a pain in your head, be it earache or something like that, or it's your back. There's no way to get comfortable. There's no positioning. So I think the biggest problem with Jarrod Bowen is that he would even have to be medicated. He's going to be on anti-inflammatories and stuff like that anyway. But even just sitting on a plane is going to be uncomfortable for him. And I think that's a problem. So I do wonder if it was a home game, he might just be able to sort of be at the stadium. He's not got to travel far from home. Obviously, he lives in Essex. And then he can have a painkilling injection just before the game to get him through. It's a little bit different if you've got to fly to Germany, you've got to wait for the plane, you've got to check in, you've got to do all that stuff that normally takes quite a lot of time. He's going to be in discomfort the whole time. And I wouldn't be surprised if the club just decide it's just not worth the risk. And maybe they have to sort of temper Bowen's own ambition to want to play. I don't doubt his attitude at all. And by the way, I don't doubt the club's medical department at all, or the ethical way it probably operates. I think if there's one thing that can be seen with West Ham, when you even look at a lot of the other teams that we play, West Ham's medical team are clearly really, really good. We've managed to keep most of our players on the pitch most of the time. And it's one of the reasons why West Ham are able to go away with the smallest squads in the Premier League, who are old as well and play loads of games. In many respects, I think the medical team are probably the unsung heroes of West Ham, because they allowed David Moyes to sort of operate with this really thin squad. It's going to be tough. It is going to be tough against Leverkusen without Jarrod Bowen. But there are also reasons to be hopeful as well. Because I didn't think we were too bad against Wolves. In fact, I mean, once Bowen went off, in fact, I would argue that we were better once he went off. Now, I'm not suggesting there's any bigger picture, and West Ham as a club are better off without Jarrod Bowen. Far from it. You know, we need him in the team. If he was available, he would play. It was certainly more about the system changing to Jarrod Bowen. In many respects, get that wing-back system and have Jarrod Bowen in there as well. But I think it showed that we could operate, because what it did is it created an attacking threat out of Emerson, who previously wasn't one. So yes, are we losing an attacker? Yeah, Jarrod Bowen. Is Emerson as sort of deadly as Jarrod Bowen? No. But we did get another attacker out of it. And I think what we also saw with Ben Johnson as well was he was able to attack more than Vladimir Soufal was able to attack within the formation that West Ham were playing beforehand. So it really becomes a question of, can we get through this tie without Jarrod Bowen intact enough that we've got a chance in the second leg? And I think we can. And I'm not trying to package up Jarrod Bowen's injury as good news. It's not. It's bad news. You know, like everybody else, I was a bit gutted, to hear that. And it's certainly the noises coming out of the club over the past couple of days. And even David Moyes said it, we think it might just be a little bit of bruising and we think it'll be okay. Well, I guess he was right. Well, he was half right. Anyway, it was just a bit of bruising. If it's a bit of bruising on the leg or the bum or the thigh or whatever, that's one thing. When it's on the spine, then that's very, very different. As I say, if your spine gets inflamed, as anybody, as I say, that's had any back problem will know, it's nasty. It is painful. So I don't know. I guess the good thing is there's nothing overly wrong with him. He could have had a fractured hip. That's an easy injury to sustain. He's not. So look, we got him for the running. There's no doubt about that. But I think, if I had to guess, I think we miss him for the next 2 games, really, which is going to be a loss. But I hope that we can manage without him. I really, really do. Listen, if you're going to, if you're not going to Germany to watch that game against Leverkusen, come and join myself and Gio, who are going to be in Hackney Wick in a fan zone watching the game. So yeah, if you can't go to the away leg and you don't fancy watching it at home and you want to be sort of nervous and excited around fellow West Ham fans, myself and Gio are hosting an event in the Colour Factory, which is in Hackney Wick. If you joined us, and you might remember for the final that was over in Prague, we had a really big event, had a great night in Hackney Wick. Basically, we've got a Hammers Chat room, a Hammers Chat zone over in the Colour Factory, and the idea is that sort of half an hour before kick-off, myself and Gio will be hosting a live show on stage. A show makes it sound more grand than it is. We're not going to be dancing, we're not going to be singing, we might be telling some bad jokes, quite frankly, but what we'll be doing is doing our usual build-up show that we usually do when we sit down and we do our bet and we do all that stuff. We'll be doing that build-up show live on stage in the Hammers Chat room of the Colour Factory. Then what will happen is a little bit before, we'll probably do that an hour before kick-off. We'll make it half an hour, and then for the last half hour, the stage will be got ready. The DJ will start playing music. The big screen will come down, all ready for us all to watch the game together. So myself and Gio's going to stay in that room and drink some beer and watch the game and enjoy it with you guys. If you want to come and join us, then the link is in the description below. Listen, the Colour Factory is a big venue. It's going to be hosting that game for all West Ham fans. But if you make sure you do check on the ticketing and come into the Hammers Chat sections, just be sure that you're buying for that section. It's a great venue. We had a great time. Obviously, we won. We won when we played in the Conference League final. But it's a really good chance for us all to meet each other, to have a beer. I'm hoping to celebrate alongside each other. And also, if you come and join us for this one, if we do get through to the semi-final, you get priority for the semi-final event for the away leg in the Colour Factory. And I tell you now, these things get really packed out and they get really busy. By the end of the by the end of the build-up for the Conference League final, people couldn't get tickets to this. So, don't miss out. You may well find that it's very advantageous for you to get a ticket now, just as you safeguard yourself for future events. I'm not going to talk about a final at the moment because, we've got a really tough quarter-final coming up. But, fancy joining myself and Gio. Link is in the description below. Make sure you go to the Hammers Chat section of it on the link when you go and book it for the Hammers, for the Colour Factory, for the Hammers fan zone. Anyway, I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Ultimately, pretty pretty bad news about Jarrod Bowen, really.